manifest what you're talking about. You can't be telling people about health and vitality and you're not doing it yourself. You're not, so as a practitioner, you don't want to be telling people about all of these, high integrity nutrients, the hierarchy of nutrients, and you eating at the bottom part and you looking like you're falling apart. So you don't want to bear false witness. One of my favorite sayings is the children of God cannot glorify him with sickly bodies and dwarfed minds. And so by eating right, you maximize not only physical, but mental and spiritual health.
Hi there, welcome back to another Real Talk with Dr. Jim Sharps. Dr. Jim, thank you for being with us again. For those of you that are new to the channel or watching this channel for the first time, this video for the first time, the aim of Real Talk is really, as it says on the tin, real conversations with Dr. Jim, covering topics on natural medicine, natural healing, and the original medicine perspective on a lot of these topics. To give you a trusted source. We know there's a lot of misinformation out there, disinformation, inaccurate information. And what we aim to do here in this series is give you things to think about, where you can continue your own independent thought to make more informed health choices. That's the goal in these videos, in these Real Talk videos with Dr. Jim. So I hope that you continue to enjoy the content if you're here for the first time. And if you're a regular viewer, welcome back and thanks for sticking with us. So for those of you that have been following along this series, this is the final part of the 10 health commandments. You'll see there's a small curling up of Dr. Jim's mouth. He's been having a lot of fun with this series. So if you haven't watched the previous two videos, do check those out. They're a lot of fun. But we'll conclude Dr. Jim today in the series. And we'll just go over in terms of the final group of commandments that we haven't covered, starting with number 7. So if you could give us an outline of both laws, and I think this is where we look at some rather explosive topics, but I'll leave that for you to go into in a bit more detail.
Yes, and that is, and so commandment number 7 is the moral commandment is thou shalt not commit adultery, and the natural health commandment is thou shalt not adulterate the foods I have provided for you. And if you remember back in the 6th commandment, we talked about the weapons of mass destruction. In this one, I talk about avoiding dietary IEDs, improvised explosive devices. And it's those kinds of things that we do in our diet that causes all kinds of explosions that come up as gas, belching, and a whole host of other audible discomforts from poor dietary habits. So poor food combining, eating too much processed foods, too much microwave foods, and eating too many foods with, additives, preservatives, colorings, flavorings. All those kinds of things can cause all kinds of explosive actions in the body, and they're audible a lot of times. So, even being careful with certain supplements and certain snacks, candies, for some people, gluten. Some things people aren't even aware of, like chewing too much gum. Chewing is basically telling your body, okay, I'm getting ready for digestion, but then nothing's coming through. So the body's digestive juices get exhausted. So there's a lot of dietary things that you can be doing and things that you can be putting in your body when you eat too much meat and dairy, because of biomagnification. What's in that meat and dairy is built up and magnified. So heavy metals and things of that nature. Too much pizza, too much even vitamins and minerals of the wrong kind that you don't need. So all these kind of things, obviously illegal drugs, the prescription drugs that we also talked about in the last one. These are explosive devices sometimes. Sometimes you don't hear them, but sometimes they're very audible. And so I have a lot of fun with that in this particular commandment, where we say you don't want to adulterate that good, natural, wholesome diet, or you want to minimize it as much as possible. And then that will be your best opportunity to have get the right kinds of nutrients fully engaged from the foods that we're eating.
Yeah, that's clear, Dr. Jim. Thank you for that. And then in terms of Commandment 7, sorry, not Commandment 7. I'll reboot that, so you'll have to cut that bit out, TJ, unfortunately for the editing. In terms of Commandment 8, how does that play out in terms of both laws, Jim?
Okay, the moral law is thou shalt not steal, and obviously the natural commandment is thou shalt not steal nutrients from my food. So our body needs 84 different minerals. It needs certain vitamins. It needs what are called phytochemicals, and just as the term notes, those phyto meaning plant, chemicals that come from plants, not from processed foods. So by eating too many processed foods, pasteurization destroys the enzymes that's necessary for dairy consumption, for example. So you don't have any problems with mother's milk because it's not sterilized, it's not pasteurized. Now, pasteurization is necessary because of the bacteria, viruses, etc. So people didn't have problems so much with dairy products before the 1900s. But after the 1900s, when there was much more pasteurization, it really destroyed the nutritional integrity. So you were actually stealing the nutrients, the full functional integrity of those nutrients from the foods. And studies have even shown that baby calves who drink the pasteurized milks from their own mother cows die within 6 months because it destroys the integrity of those nutrients. That high heat that's necessary destroys the nutrients. So too much cooked foods, microwave foods, obviously. So too much cooked foods, overcooking foods, microwave foods. Of course, having with your foods alcohol, caffeine, tobacco, all of these are stealing the nutrients from your food. So that's where I have a lot of fun saying you want to eat foods in this highest, most integrous form, which is in its whole food form, and eating based on your personal requirements and your capacities. And in those cases where you can't eat the food, and most foods shouldn't be eaten in their raw form. And for some people, it's even though the integrity is highest in the raw food form, most of us don't have the digestive juices strong enough to digest it. So some cooking is necessary for most people, but you want to minimize the destruction of those nutrients and maximize the whole food integrity of those ingredients that your body needs for maximizing health and vitality.
Thank you, Dr. Jim. And moving on to Commandment 9, how do those two break out, and how much fun did you have with this one?
Okay, that's a little bit different. The ninth commandment is thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. And in this particular case, thou shalt not bear false witness to thy neighbor. And that is basically talking about, you want to manifest what you're talking about. You can't be telling people about health and vitality and you're not doing it yourself. You're not, so as a practitioner, you don't want to be telling people about all of these, high integrity nutrients, the hierarchy of nutrients, and you eating at the bottom part and you're looking like you're falling apart. So you don't want to bear false witness. One of my favorite sayings is the children of God cannot glorify him with sickly bodies and dwarfed minds. And so by eating right, you maximize not only physical, but mental and spiritual health. And you want to live a convicted life yourself. So it's about the practical application in your own life while you're trying to encourage people, your friends, family, associates. And the best teacher is sometimes you being the right kind of a faithful and obedient witness and servant of our Creator. So that's where I have a lot of fun with that. And of course, I'm usually talking to Christian audiences when I'm talking about these 10 commandments, the 10 moral commandments, and the 10 health commandments. So it kind of makes sense, and it kind of rings well with that kind of audience when you're talking about practicing health reform yourself, to be an effective proponent of this high integrity natural health approach to diet and lifestyle.
That's clear. Thank you, Dr. Jim. And the final commandment that you had fun with, number 10, if you could roll us off and finish us off in terms of how those two played out in terms of the moral and the health law.
Yes, that's an interesting one. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, thy neighbor's wife, manservant, maidservant, etc., or anything that is thy neighbor's. And this one is kind of a fun one too. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's health. In other words, everybody is an individual. Treat everybody with respect and dignity. And what I talk about here, again, I'm talking to Christian audiences usually. I'm talking about not being self-righteous and judgmental about health and health reform. Each person must stand for himself. No one can obey for his neighbor. No one can be excused from neglecting his duty. And we want to be in the world, but not of the world, to the best of our ability. And this is where we talk about, trying to gain the victory, having a right relationship with God. Sometimes prayer, the Bible even says some of these things require prayer and fasting. So avoiding what I call covetous-itis and ocular plankism. So you don't want to be envious of anybody's health. You want to appreciate and do the best you can for where you are, and be very respectful of others. And this ocular plankism, ocular meaning eye, and the story in the Bible where it talks about, you want to take the plank out of the plank out of your own eye before you start judging the speck in somebody else's eye. So that obsessive of finding fault in other people's diet, lifestyle, etc. You want to have fun with this, do the best you can, and be very respectful of others, and try to be healthy, happy, and holy in a very respectful and sharing way, giving honor and glory to your God, and first, and respecting and loving your neighbor second. So that is basically the sum and substance of those 10 commandments of the 10 natural health commandments. And it's intended to be in a fun way to talk about diet and lifestyle principles that will promote absolutely outrageous health and vitality, giving you the opportunity of regaining that loss we had, getting closer to what our designed level of health should be in that design period of time, that getting closer to that period by effectively adding 15 to 30 productive years to your life.
Wonderful, Dr. Jim. Thank you so much for that. If just before we kind of close the call, I just wonder if you'd be able to just recap the 10 commandments side by side, precept by precept, if you will, just for those that may have missed, and just as we leave, that can be front of mind.
Yes, you want me to take it from the beginning?
Yeah, and just run it back.
Okay, we'll just run right through them. The first one is clearly, I am the Lord thy God, thou shalt not have other gods before me. And the equivalent is, I am the master physician, thou shalt not have other physicians before me. Commandment number 2 is, thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything. And the commandment, the natural health commandment, is, thou shalt not make unto thee any graven foods or likeness of food. Eat whole foods, eat real foods, not fake foods. The third commandment is, thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. The natural health commandment is, thou shalt not blaspheme my health system. There are many health systems out there. You want to stay with the natural original health system. The fourth commandment, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. And the fourth commandment, the health commandment, is remember my health laws and keep them holy. WHOLLY. Okay. And then the fifth commandment is honor thy mother and thy father, that thy days shall be long. The natural health commandment would be honor your original parents' dietary, lifestyle, and practices, and live a long time. The sixth commandment is thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not kill the foods I have provided for you. And we have a lot of fun with that, with the weapons of mass destruction. The seventh one is thou shalt not commit adultery. And then the natural health equivalent would be thou shalt not adulterate the foods that I have provided for you. And we had fun with avoiding the dietary IEDs, the improvised explosive devices. And then the eighth commandment, thou shalt not steal. The natural health equivalent, thou shalt not steal nutrients from our foods. We talked about the too much cooked foods, processed foods, etc. And then the ninth commandment, as we come into the end, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. And the equivalent is thou shalt not bear false witness to thy neighbor, with all of this health planning, etc. And basically, it's basically talking about you living a convicted life yourself while you're trying to help others and being a witness to God's natural health laws. And then the 10th commandment is thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, wife, etc. And thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's health. We want to be very respectful. We want to not be judgmental. We don't want to be self-righteous. And that is sum and substance of those 10 commandments. And if I can add, Seth, we also talked about along the way, there's a great way of determining analyzing how well you're honoring these 10 health commandments, where we talked about RBTI. So that is essentially a summary, if you will, of what we covered in this series on the 10 natural health commandments.
Dr. Jim, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to go through this series with you, and it's nice to follow you through the fun that you've had with this. Again, as always, if you're watching this video and you have comments and you have questions, please do leave them below. We do review them and we do respond to them. If you do want to, this has piqued something in your mind and you want to continue the study further, please do check out the links on our website, on the video description, if you want to kind of explore that further. But that's it for now. Until the next time, bye for now. See you on the next one.
Bye for now. God bless.